Crazy. Actually, really big Mythic Plus changes coming with maybe this last build of the PTR. Hoping and praying for a final release candidate build coming soon. But anyway, I just want to talk about some of this. A lot of people have been asking, so might as well do it. One thing though, immediately, this Paladin changed. People were talking about this early. Then they made an announcement or like an update, I guess. If you haven't seen it since this article went live, apparently this is no change at all. It's just some kind of tooltip thing. I don't know. Trying to look at like diffs on WoW is so confusing to me. So I always have respect for people who do it. Anyway, so some major changes to bosses. This was the first thing posted. First thing that we see here is some big changes in the other side. Obviously, some of the harder, I'd say probably the hardest dungeon boss wise, like as a collective. And Dealer Zerexa, they basically nerfed the damage. And of course, these numbers, they're it's only 300 different effectively, right? But that's 1,979. Assumingly that's starting at 0, and that's going to scale all the way upwards. I don't know exactly how it scales, but presumably that difference becomes very noticeable higher on. So that's a pretty big nerf on its own. But then they actually changed the way the spell functions, which at first caught me by surprise. And I thought this was them buffing it. Like I thought they would nerf it, the upfront damage, and then make you take more damage over time. Famously, if you watch the disband video that I just made, you will know that I've had a lot of groups that don't understand how this mechanic works. They just let it bounce back and forth between two people over and over again, and then eventually that one person gets one shot. So I thought they were going to make that mechanic even harder because it's kind of the only mechanic on the fight. I mean, it's not, but it's a big one, and nobody ever does it right. But instead, what they're doing is they're changing the functionality of it. So before, it made you take 3% increased arcane damage for 12 seconds, and then it would keep stacking. And arcane damage, apparently, everything on the fight is arcane. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I'd imagine that that's probably the truth. Like, it's a lot of weird lightning looking things. So arcane damage is certainly coming from the ability called Arcane Lightning, even though for some reason Wowhide doesn't work anymore. But yeah, so this is Arcane, for example. So not nature, okay? And that would make the whole fight more dangerous, which was actually a big part of why the fight was difficult. Now they change it so it only increases the damage from this ability, Arcane Lightning. See, I completely overlooked that. Increases damage taken from Arcane, and I just stopped reading. You know what I mean? So it's actually the name of the spell, only that spell. So they did make the spell more, I mean, slightly more dangerous. I guess they've nerfed the spell, and then they made the stacking element of it slightly worse. But now the rest of the fight's mechanics are going to be easier to deal with, presumably including the bomb and everything else. So now this is a little bit interesting because the Hakari change. There's a whole post on this, which you can read. I don't fully understand it myself. First of all, it says some changes, basically big changes to blood barrage and blood shield in general. Apparently, this changes to indicate that Hakari no longer does anything other than blood barrage during his shield phase. He doesn't melee, and his energy pauses while his shield is active. Now, this is the big deal. Energy pauses while his shield is active. That is huge, absolutely massive change. Even if you suck at the fight, even if you struggle with making the DPS checks, struggling to break the shield, it doesn't actually matter anymore. In the past, the problem used to be that the shield, if you didn't break it fast enough, there would just immediately be another shield afterwards. So I guess that's not happening anymore. But this whole like he melees during the shield, it's like, you sure about that? I guess so. This is yeah. I'm gonna leave it up to them. But there's a whole post about this. You could read it. Apparently, yeah. So one way or the other, the fight is going to be substantially easier, but it's not really going to be that much easier because the real problem with the encounter is that people don't do good damage. The fight takes very long, and then people die to the rest of the mechanics. So the question is, was he doing so much during the blood barrier that people were actually dying and that they're still not going to die? I just did it today. I'll be on my shaman on a lower key where melee were just never in range of the boss during the blood barrier because they were constantly like worried about standing in the red puddles. And those ads that are on the fight do a lot of damage too. So, and then there's a corrupted blood, which apparently he used to continue to go out during that. Like he did his full slew of mechanics during the blood barrier, and now none of that is occurring anymore. So yes, certainly the fight is going to be a lot easier. But like, there's some comments. This guy, I don't even know how this guy still has a fucking account on Wowhead. But anyway, yeah, some people are basically saying like the opposite, like it's a training dummy. Now the fight is a training dummy. It's like, you've never done a Mythic Plus, have you? Legitimately, people are still gonna wipe on this fight. It's probably a lot better off, a lot more balanced. But I mean, I guess there's a video. Let's just quickly look at it. But I don't really see. So there's the blood barrier, and yeah. So now he's literally just standing there, I guess. Which I have seen him spin around and stuff. So I guess it makes sense. I mean, I guess that means he's trying to target me, but I'm 90% sure I'm not getting auto attacked now. The only thing is, I guess I'm moving out of range. That's probably it. I'm moving out of range of him, and that's all there is to it. So I don't know if that video did not help me learn anything about that fight. But anyway, that's cool. It's a big change regardless. So some other small things: tortured echoes, slightly less damage. This is actually the mechanic I was talking about on my shaman, where I could not survive this Amaranth fight. Literally could not heal through it on my undergeared shaman, and that's been nerfed. That's like he basically kills all the skeletons, whatever, and then it does more damage. And it just, at first, when you read this, it's like power from deaths of enemies and allies alike. Each application inflicts. So I don't know. To me, originally I thought like the mechanic was like, if you kill the ads properly, he won't do anything. But no, that's not how it works. And then Crixus has some nerfs too. I don't know what this part is, but yeah. So some small nerfs to both of those fights. I would say, like, again, they look smaller. I'm just not really sure, what's going on here, like what it's going to look like. Because obviously 115 is not a number that you're going to encourage, or you're going to encounter on a Mythic Plus, right? So I just don't know what it looks like when you scale it all the way up. Presumably big changes to bosses. This is where Zera is back in Theater Pain after being removed in a hotfix. That's the shield? Oh, 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 oh. No, that's the. Wow, that's bizarre. That's the NPC that used to be a fourth boss on the first boss in Theater of Pain, and now they are back, apparently. That's funny. I didn't actually realize that. I didn't see that yesterday. So that's cool. All right, so that's that for the bosses. Now some big affixes to, or some big changes to affixes, but before we talk about that, we'll take a look at the trash tuning. So yeah, some changes. Sanguine Depths changes reduce the impact of a Missed Kiss / Curse the Spell on Remnant of Fury, and make it so the Chamber Sentinel Gargoyles no longer have a frontal cleave, simply only hitting and applying the bleed to its main target now. So that's good, I guess. I don't know, man. If you're getting hit by frontals in Mythic Plus, like, I just don't really understand why they're wasting time fixing stuff like this, changing stuff like this. Like, I'm telling you right now, if anybody's ever gotten hit by the Severing Slice, you're probably not upgrading that key, right? Or it just doesn't matter. It's one of the two. If you died to getting hit by the Severing Slice, you got bigger problems. So it's like, why bother changing that? I don't know. But that's life, that they do things for reasons that we don't know. Halls of Atonement changes makes the dungeon harder for the most common strategies in the dungeon. Most groups outrange the Shard of Halkias cast of Thrash, but now the range has been increased, but the damage nerfed. For the groups that were outranging this spell, you'll still take more damage than before because now it's a 60-yard range. So yeah, it used to be like a 30-yard range, or maybe more than that. I don't know. But now it is a 60-yard range, but it has been changed from inflicting 7 physical damage to 5. So I just don't know what these numbers are representing, but. And Wicked Bolts. These bolts are spam cast in the tank, but apparently they weren't hitting hard enough as Blizzard just buffed the spell, making these mobs more dangerous. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, any interruptible cast maybe should be harder, but I don't know. Don't know anything about that stuff. But 2 small changes there. Realistically, this doesn't make any difference at all from what I could tell. This whole explosive anger and explosive range thing, I don't even know that this exists, so literally don't have any opinion on that, but Halls of Atonement, changing it to the Thrash thing, that's probably a good idea, I think, because you probably should not be able to outrange the main mechanic on Trash. And it kind of just makes melee suck, right? So a little bit less than that. Speaking of melee sucking, we're on to Storming. So this is a big one. 4 changes, apparently. Storming now travels much slower, making it easier to dodge. Storming now appears to always travel clockwise, making it easier to dodge when there's multiple tornadoes. I'll be the judge of that. Damage nerfed from 12% health. To 12%, down from 15. But the big one, Storming now despawns when it's hit by a single player. So we actually have a nice little clip here. You can see it. But yeah, literally, you walk into it and it goes away. So that's pretty cool. So Blood DK, absolutely going to dominate these. They're magic damage as it is. And yeah, they should knock melee tanks away from the mob list, and the effects should be much less oppressive. That's not, yeah, I probably wouldn't even comment on that because honestly, I can literally just, if there's ever like 3 or 4 up, I can literally just pop Death's Advance, run through all of them, maybe AMS or something like that, and that's that. That's a big change to an affix that was frankly a joke. Like honestly, this is, I think this is the easiest affix in the game. Well, besides Volcanic, and it's kind of the counter to Volcanic. It's like the counterpart that is. Like Volcanic is ranged and Storming is melee, so it seems pretty fair to me. The affix effectively does nothing. I mean, it literally, I don't know, apparently it's doing 15% of your health. I don't feel like it's doing that. Certainly doesn't feel that way to me. The only time I ever struggle with this affix is when it knocks me out of range and I can't get a death strike and I've died. This has happened a lot, and that's not changing. So, I think like people just hear things, they regurgitate this thing. This isn't going to change this affix. Like it's really not going to make any difference other than this part. When a single player gets hit by it, they're gone. That's a big deal because if you've ever fought like a really big pull with Storming and it's just like it's looking like Kansas City outside, it's like you can't fight. That's just not fair. You know what I mean? It's like you can't stand still. So that should make that scenario easier. But I think most people who have problems with Storming, this won't make a single bit of difference for them. So we'll see what happens. But that's a good start, I suppose. Anyway, here's the big one. Necrotic nerfed. Players and especially tanks will be happy to know that Necrotic has finally been nerfed. Trash. No, this is a long time coming. I'm talking about a long time coming. If you don't know, in Legion, there was a bunch of affixes that were meant like expressly to consider a single role. There was, I think, bolstering and busting in general would be ones that like impacted the DPS, but the main one was skittish. Okay, so skittish was in the game from Legion till BFA, and then it gets removed in this expansion, Shadowlands. Now, I think it was removed because of how Pride was going to work and how they wanted to retune tank threat. Like I think they thought skittish was going to be like a fun way to make threat a part of the game again. Didn't really work out. So that was like the DPS mechanic, obviously. It's like tank really couldn't do much about it. They removed them. Okay, that was recently. That was also another one called overflowing. Okay, this was an affix that if you did not, basically, if you overhealed at all, it put a healing absorb reduction on the person. So if I overhealed by like 50k, that person now has a 50k deficit that I have to heal through in order to be able to do it. So this made a couple healers horrible, like unbelievably bad. Like Holy Paladin was horrible. I'll never forget the first weeks I did this affix on my Holy Paladin. It was insanely bad. It was the least fun I've ever had healing anything because I would crit by accident with a Holy Shock and I would have killed myself effectively. It's like, wow, now I can't heal myself for like the whole, like you basically, I remember waiting. It only lasted like 15 seconds. I'm like, yeah, sorry, I can't heal you for 15 seconds. Like by the time I got it off, you'd be dead. So it's like, just don't even bother trying to heal that person. And laying hands, oh, forget it. So anyway, they removed that pretty quick. That was in Legion, they removed it. But the Necrotic stuck around the whole time. And I never really understood it. Now, Necrotic, I think, if you're not a tank, you probably look at this as like one of the easiest affixes because you're not a fucking tank. But as a tank, it is the dumbest affix that's ever existed. I mean, there's nothing even remotely this bad. Like, not even close. It makes the job of tanking, which is already difficult, near impossible at times. Like, you cannot actually tank. You have to kite. And that's fine in, maybe in Shadowland or in Battle for Azeroth, where tanks are doing like ridiculous threat anyway, and they can just sprint away with all these essences and stuff. But yeah, it's just not really a viable option in Shadowlands. Like to kite on top of the threat issues, especially as Blood Death Knight, it's like, nah, it's just really dumb. And there's been a lot of bad bosses. There's been like 3 or 4 bosses since Legion that have been horrible with Necrotic. So they made the change early with Necrotics on bosses where it's only like a 50% chance to actually apply. So if you get lucky and you parry a couple times, you will drop Necrotic while fighting a boss. You have to get lucky, but that's how it works, okay? So anyway, this is the way it currently works on bosses. So they're changing it on every other melee swing that connects. So it's a 50% chance. I didn't think it worked that way. I thought it was just a 50% chance. I don't know if it's actually literally every other melee swing, but I guess that's what this person, I don't even know what this is meant to show, but um, I see. It is actually, no, it's not. Yeah, some of these, I guess he's dodging them. I don't fully understand. Anyway, I'm not good at looking at stuff like that, but regardless, it's a good start. It's not really. They should just remove the affix. I don't know why the affix is in the game. I really don't. It should not be in the game. I think it's. I don't know any tank who thinks it should be in the game. There's just so many. It's not bad. 90% of packs, it's like whatever. It doesn't matter. But then those 10% of packs where there's literally nothing you can do about it, and it's just that's it. Like you can't kite a mob that can't be slowed. You know what I mean? So what do they want you to do? Like ping pong the mob off a rep pally or somebody who's got a taunt? That's not gonna. I mean, come on, that's just ridiculous. You don't have to do that in any other affix. That level of coordination should not be a baseline difficulty for a 10. You know what I mean? For a low key, it's just really unfun. So anyway, yeah, my vote is they should remove it, but this will just now make. So the problem here is like keeping it in the game, but nerfing it in this way is just kind of stupid, frivolous, honestly. So now it's going to be an absolute joke. Like so now it's definitely one of the easiest affixes again until you can't actually kite. So it's like, all right, so now instead of 40 stacks, I have 20 stacks, and I still can't kite. Mobs still are not slowable. There's no possible way to get out of melee range of these mobs. They're going to chase me the whole time. I'm going to be sprinting at the absolute pinnacle of my speed just to try to get a single stack dropped. Hooray. It's just dumb. It's just, anyway. So that's good, at least a step in the right direction there. But they also changed the lieutenants substantially. So if you haven't seen that video, that should be the pinned video on the channel, like the video that when you load the channel, you'll see it. So we have a lot to update on that. First of all, they've changed every single one, all 4 of them. This is only about their actual abilities, though. It doesn't seem like, I mean, at least from what I've seen on the Wowhead post, this fucking guy again, oh my god. Anyway, they didn't actually change their benefit. They just made them harder. And I think that's probably a good thing because from what I could tell, these benefits we're getting from these guys are really, really, really good. Let's put it this way. If every time you kill the Pride, you got the damage buff and the mana buff, and that stacked up over the course of the dungeon, that would be the equivalent of this. Because these things aren't only good, but they stack on top of each other and they synergize with each other. So this is kind of ridiculous. And I definitely think they kind of put themselves in a weird situation here because now if each one of these guys is going to be very difficult, I am eager to see what they look like on high keys. Let's put it this way. But anyway, so each one has an aura. Only one of them's been changed, and this is a fire dude. So now he's just doing more damage with his aura, just ticking fire damage. He still does the Void Zone, which we showed in the video. There's the Dispellable Magic debuff, which should not be dangerous at all, to my knowledge. I guess it is now, though, slightly more dangerous because they've been buffing the aura. But there's also apparently a new thing, and I think Faxley was saying that it happens quite a lot. A large AoE that hits all players. So he probably, kind of like a Hellfire, he radiates from himself. And the question is, how often does it happen? And somebody said that it happens often. So we'll see. You know, that's certainly going to make it a lot easier or a lot harder, but that was like the easiest. These 2 were extremely easy for me when I was soloing them. We'll see what it looks like in a group. But anyway, Oros Coldheart, definitely the easiest one. Or maybe no, this is what he was talking about. Well, I don't know. Regardless, they added a new ability. The only change: Cold Snap, Swirlies to dodge. So the reason that this guy was hard because it's a lot of movement frequently. Kind of both of these have a lot of movement, but this one you really need to dodge the frontal because it's going to knock you back. And then obviously it's slowing you. That's the aura. So, and you don't want to be splashing this thing on each other. So now you have to dodge and do all that. I don't know. We'll see. I think probably not very difficult anyway. This one is certainly seeming like the easiest one to me. So we'll see. The next 2, though. Now, this one is very interesting. This was extremely difficult for me, and I'd imagine it's going to be difficult no matter what. This is all physical damage, so the tank is going to struggle on this regardless, but I will say that they added a new ability that really makes you think about what this difficulty is going to be. So the main mechanic for DPS, I think, is that He's going to do a big kind of a bleed, an AoE. It's like a circle. Okay. If you hit your friend with it, they get hit too. Okay. For every target hit, they get hit by the bleed. Okay. So typically what you'd want to do is just spread out. Like I think if everybody was just spread out, then the mob doesn't do anything at all. Like really nothing at all. So they added deals AoE damage and fears any player not standing on top of an ally. And is this a cast or what is this? It's a 2-second cast. Yeah. So what you're going to have to do now is spread for raise, which happens pretty frequently. Let's see if it says anything about that. I doubt it. Yeah, it's just an instant. It happens pretty frequently from what I can tell. And then collapse during the 2-second cast of Wave of Terror. So you want to be spread just enough and then collapse and then probably spread immediately again. So that is going to make, that's a smart mechanical decision, honestly, on Blizzard's part. They didn't just make the mob harder. They made you have to think more. And depending on how much AoE damage we're talking here, that probably shouldn't make it much harder, but it is making you have to think more. Now this guy, they completely redesigned. If you watch me do this, Sogadon the Breaker, this dude literally doesn't do shit. He literally, as a tank, it was like a complete joke. It was only a tank mechanic at the time. It's a lot different now. This is Automatic Jack. You should honestly watch this clip. It's very interesting, and I'll show you why right now. Okay, we just missed it. So his new mechanic is he pulls everybody in and then chains them. You probably can't see it and it doesn't go full screen here. So, but I'll explain it to you. It doesn't seem that bad, but he's gonna grab everyone in. Presumably, let's see if we can tell. Presumably, if you're not at ranged, you don't get grabbed, or you still get a chain, but you don't move. Yeah, it looks like it still kind of picks you up. So that's a bit of an issue if you're casting a spell. That's a bit scary. Like as a Holy Pally or even a healer in general. Even if you're in melee, because I was thinking like on Gourd Chop, if you are in melee range, you don't get moved. Okay, so I thought it might be like that. But anyway, he's going to pull you in, and he's going to put Bindings of Misery, okay? It's going to basically put like a root, like a fallen rock mechanic that you have to break to be able to leave. And once you do that, you can leave, but he does a long cast Massive Smash. I think it's like 3 seconds. So you have 8 seconds. Oh, wow, you have a long time. Okay, so yeah, you're going to get pulled in and you have 8 seconds to break this mechanic, and then you run out of it and you don't die. Presumably, it will kill you if you get hit by it. Who knows? So yeah, kill the Bindings of Misery to break the root, then escape Massive Smash before it finishes casting. Root breaking abilities will still free the player, though. Okay, so freedom, pretty good for that. I don't know what else is in the game, but that's good. And then obviously, Seismic Wave is also new, deals AoE damage. It's probably just him like kind of smashing the ground. But the cool thing is hard-hitting Tank Buster. Now, there was a similar thing in the previous iteration, and you literally just kite. You just like, I think Blizzard immediately saw that and they're like, nah, it's not what we're looking for here. Literally just, honestly though, it was like no way you would survive it if you didn't kite, I felt like at the time. So as long as this isn't the case, that's fine. But now if you kite, he will grip the tank back, then crush. No kiting allowed. That's pretty funny, man. So this guy's hilarious. This is horrible. They did the opposite of what should have been done, aka nerf the hell out of all of those already super overtuned lieutenants. Yeah, I think you're a fucking idiot, honestly, but okay, good luck with that. So that's cool. I will say that I like the changes. I think they're smart changes. We'll see. I haven't seen really any of them in action, but I like this. This is them thinking, you know what I mean? It's like, how do we make this mob harder without making it harder? How do you make it more mentally stimulating, you know? So I think that's the way to do it. This could be it too, you know, because swirlies to dodge, if they're all over the place, like Faxi said, they're all over the place. You have to dodge them and you're slowed, and then you're also dodging a bunch of stuff. So that mob's very easy. It doesn't really do much, but you have a lot to dodge. This mob's kind of like a HPS race, seemingly. Doesn't seem like you can stop this, so yeah, I quite like this. I really do. I think they've done a good job with this affix. We will see how the balance is and what the scaling looks like, because obviously that is the big part of it. But apparently this is a huge change, this Hakar change, so we'll see. I do think that dungeon is unduly difficult at times, and usually Hakar is the culprit. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.